Awesome. Looks like we're recording, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Evergreen Employment Provider Training Session. My name is Leslie Miska, and I'm the Office of Aging and Disability Services Information Services Manager, and I will be leading today's training session. Next slide, please, Miranda. During today's training session, we will cover the following topics: an introduction to Evergreen, the employment data form, and the employment data form queries. Next slide, please, Miranda. Prior to this training, you should have watched the Evergreen microlearning videos. If you have not had a chance to watch those yet, don't worry, you still can. These brief videos are available on the Evergreen project website at maine.gov/dhhs/EIS/Evergreen. These videos will provide training for the following topics: search, which is an introduction to Evergreen and the search process and how to access person, staff, location, and organization records. Dashboards. There are two different dashboards in Evergreen. One is for you, the user, and the other is for each of the persons that you will be serving. There's a microlearning video related to the person record itself, which is where we capture all of the demographic and personal information about each of the people that we serve. Health information, which is a comprehensive collection of all of the information such as diagnoses, allergies, medications, and more. Queries and notifications, which are two different tools that will help you manage your outstanding work or actions that you need to take in the system. Progress notes, which is where you'll document your notes for the time that you spend with the people that you're serving. Attachments, which is a way to upload important additional and supplemental documentation to the information that's captured within Evergreen. Please note that we will not be covering all of this information today, so you will want to make sure that you do watch those microlearning videos if you haven't already, or you can always go back and watch them as a refresher. Next slide, please, Miranda. Participants have been added to this training session in listener mode. Therefore, your line is muted. We ask that you type any questions that you have into the Q&A throughout the presentation. So we definitely want to hear from you, and we want to be able to answer your questions. So you'll want to locate that Q&A icon in your Zoom menu. You may see it just displayed out there as one of the icons, or it may be hidden under the more ellipses, the three dots that say more. But definitely find that so that you can type your questions throughout the presentation, and then I'll answer as many of them as I can after we get through the slides. If for some reason we are unable to answer all the questions that come in during the hour together, we certainly will respond to those by posting those responses out on our frequently asked questions on our website. Next slide, please, Miranda. There are two different sides of Evergreen. There's the Adult Protective Services side, which captures the Adult Protective Services reports or APS reports. And then there's the Evergreen side, which is where the Evergreen person record is contained. We're going to focus our training today on the Evergreen side because this is where our EIS functionality is going to be housed. However, it's important to talk about both of them because Evergreen is a shared system, and therefore the Evergreen person record, which contains all of the relevant person details like demographics, identifiers such as A number, social security number, and health information, will be shared with our Adult Protective Services and Public Guardianship Conservatorship staff. So they will have access to view and edit the data captured at the person record level. Next slide, please, Miranda. Some of the benefits of Evergreen include robust help center with self-service features, including the ability to reset your own password. System-generated notifications for the ability to run role-specific queries to see outstanding actionable items. An enhanced person record with centralized data capture, such as history, health information, alerts, and much more. The display of common data within forms rather than having to recapture it. So if a form needs a person's information like date of birth or address or guardianship details, that information will just be displayed on the form rather than asking you to recapture it. And then standardized data capture. So we do have field level validations, required fields. So if a field is required in a form, there'll be either a red asterisk and or a yellow vertical bar at the beginning of the field itself. And there are also form workflows and business rules that will help to make sure that we're capturing data in a standard way for better reporting. Next slide, please, Miranda. My dashboard is the first page that the staff member or user, yourself, will see when you log in. My dashboard showcases the top persistent navigational toolbar. That's the white toolbar at the top, which has your search. There's a keyword search that you can type keywords into and then just simply hit enter to get your search results. Or you can use the icons to the right of the search bar to access your top 20 most recent search criteria, so I don't have to keep entering it. Or the one with the little magnifying glass with the plus sign in it is your advanced search. So if you want to narrow your search results, you can type your keywords into specific fields. And then you have a variety of other icons and areas that you can access from this top level navigation. Just below that is your dashboard, and there are 3 tiles for the employment provider. The tile to the far left that has the orange background is the announcements tile. This is where alerts will be posted by the vendor, FEI Systems, or my team. And these alerts will be, examples would be, a scheduled upcoming outage because of maintenance, or maybe a holiday, letting you know that the help desk won't be available for the holiday, or anything that system-wide users might need to be aware of. The tile in the middle that's titled Messages Inbox is a feature in Evergreen that's similar to email. However, you don't need to use your Outlook or other email client. You just simply log into Evergreen and use this feature just like you would email, but it will contain all of those conversations inside of the system. So you can communicate with other system users, such as the employment data specialist or an assigned case manager for a person that you're serving. And then the tile to the far right that says My Notes is a feature that's similar to sticky notes or Notepad, if you've ever used that on a smartphone device or a tablet or maybe even your laptop. This will allow you to capture notes with just a simple title and your note content, and it will store these notes in your staff profile or your user profile. And if your role has the ability to create progress notes, you can later promote that to a person level progress note if needed. But they can just be notes or reminders to yourself that just continue to live in your profile. Next slide, please, Miranda. The employment data form captures data around a person's employment in the past quarter. This form is completed by providers for persons who are receiving employment-related services or were employed in the last quarter but did not receive any services for employment. And if the person was employed in the last quarter and did not receive any services for employment, the case manager or care coordinator would be expected to fill out this form. The data captured in the form enables ODES to analyze information around the number of persons employed, hours of employment, businesses that employ these individuals, and the transportation used, if any, for that employment. The form is completed every quarter and captures information for the previous quarter. The quarters are based off calendar years, and a notification will be sent each quarter reminding you to submit the form for the previous quarter. Notifications will be sent on January 1st, April 1st, July 1st, and October 1st, and forms should be completed by the 15th of that month. Example, a notification will be sent on April 1st reminding you to fill out the form for the months of January to March, and that form should be submitted by April 15th. Next slide, please, Miranda. To create an employment data form, you should navigate to the person record, click on the Forms and Plans icon in the green primary navigation menu on the left-hand side of the screen. I have circled that icon in red and the background appears white because I was clicked onto that page when I took this screenshot. Clicking on this icon will take you to the All Forms list page, which is grayed out in the background of the screenshot. From here, you will click on the plus New Form button in the upper left-hand corner of the content area. This will open up the pop-up modal like the one that you see in the center of the screenshot. From here, you would choose employment data under the case care plans category and move to the two-step create modal. Next slide, please, Miranda. Upon clicking next, you will be presented with a yes or no question about whether the person worked during the previous quarter. If the answer is no, then a conditional question will display and require you to select a reason from the pick list provided. Those choices include under VR Services, Division of Blind and Visually Impaired, DBVI, no work available, out with illness, vacation/personal time, fired/laid off, transportation unavailable, or person quit. The system will auto-populate the organization of the logged in user who created the form. After answering the question or questions, click Save to move to step 2, where you will confirm that you want to create the form. Next slide, please, Miranda. Upon creating the form, the system will navigate you into the employment data form. Like other forms in the system, the employment data form will be in a status of in progress. The completion requirements will display an orange dotted circle indicating that the required fields for submission have not yet been populated because you've just created the form. All sections of the form will be collapsed by default, and you can use either the expand all icon to open them at the same time, or you can use the caret icon to the left of each header to manually expand and collapse one section at a time. As shown here, you can scroll as shown here. You can scroll to populate the sections of the form, or you can click on the toggle icon in the upper right-hand side of the content area to open the quick scroll menu. The quick scroll menu will display all of the sections of the form, which for the employment data form are simply the overview and job details sections. Clicking on any section name in the quick scroll will navigate you directly there without having to scroll. The overview section of this form is pre-filled from the create stepper, so the only section which needs to be edited is the job details section. This section of the form is a multi-add list, so that you can populate the details for each job that the person held during the previous quarter. To add the details for the first job, you will click on the green plus add job details button, which will open the add job details edit modal like the one pictured in the center of the screenshot. Here you will be required to select a business name from the list of 684 businesses that exist in that pick list. Next, you will select the business or employer contact, which should have been added to the person record contacts before creating the form, if it has not previously been added there. Upon selecting the contact, the system will auto-populate the organization. In this example, I selected a contact with the first name of Test and the last name of employer whose organization was Amado's. That's indicated in the parentheses in the business contact. And the system auto-populated the organization associated with that contact, which is Amado's. After that, you will be required to answer a yes or no question about whether the business is located in Maine. If the answer is yes, you will be required to select the town from the dropdown, and then provide an hourly wage and the total hours worked for the quarter. Next, you will select all of the benefits that the person received. The full list of choices is shown in the zoomed in box with the thick black border to the right of this question. As you can see here, there are also choices of other and none apply. If other is selected, you will be required to provide a description of the other benefit. You can only select none apply if no other options have been checked. Next slide, please, Miranda. There is a yes or no question about whether the business is owned by the agency providing the employment services, and then a single select pick list for the primary method of transportation. The choices have been added to the screenshot in the zoomed box with the thick black border. The choices include walks, drive self, family friends transport, bicycle, net, NMT, state contract, waiver provider, public transportation, taxi, carpooling, support employment agency, work from home, or other. After that, If the person has active prior authorizations for work supports and/or employment specialists, you will be required to enter the hours billed for each in the last quarter. In this example, the person that I used did not have those prior authorizations, so you do not see those two fields in this screenshot. However, if they were receiving those services, then you would see those. Then you'll provide the date range that the person worked at this job. If the person is still employed, there should be a start date entered, and then the end date can be left blank and the current checkbox can be checked. If the person is no longer employed there, then both a start and end date should be entered. If the exact dates are not known, then the closest dates should be entered and the approximate checkbox should be checked, indicating that these are approximate. Next, you will be required to indicate whether the job placement is individual or group, and then provide the person's title and a description of their job duties before saving and adding another job if the person was employed by more than one business within the last quarter. Next slide, please, Miranda. Once all of the job details have been added, your completion requirements will display green check marks like the ones pictured here in this screenshot. To complete the employment data form, you will click on the status dropdown and select the complete option. The close option should only be used if the form was created in error and the form should truly be closed out. Now I'm going to steal the screen share from Miranda and show you how to find the employment status and employer contacts, and then create the employment data form. I am in test environment, so bear with me here. It may be a little bit slow. And my fingers may not be typing yet. So I'm using my keyword search to find the person record that I want to go to. And then this is my search result, and I just simply click on the row that I want to navigate to. And this is my person record for Leslie Test. From here, I can go to the person record itself. And this is all of my demographics and important information about this individual. And I can use this toggle over here to the right-hand side to see all of the sections of the person record. Instead of having to scroll, I can simply click on Education and Employment, and the system will take me right to that section. From here, I can see that this individual was employed part-time or is currently employed part-time. If the person was full-time, this would say full-time. If the person was not employed, you would not see an employment status here. Next, I can go to the contacts section. If the contacts was further down, I could use this, or since the contacts is the very next section, I can simply scroll. And I can see here in this person's contact record that their employer, relationship of employer, is the organization Amados. And this individual's contact information is here. And the contact's name is Test Employer. That's what this is over here. So from here, I'm going to show you how you can create the employment data form. So again, I'm under the context of Leslie Test, that record. I click on Forms and Plans. And from here, this is the All Forms list page. So these are all of the forms that have been created for this person's record. And from here, I can click the plus new form. And I can select Case Care Plans. And I can select the employment data form and choose Next. And I can say yes from here because I would like to create this form. Oh, and this is a great example. So because I already have an employment data form in progress, because I demoed this last week and I didn't complete that one, it's telling me that I cannot create another form because there's one that's already in progress. So from here, I can cancel out and I can go back here and I can see here's my in progress one. So I can open this up and just show you what that looks like. And I can use my expand all, and it shows me that it pre-populated the overview. I actually did populate this information. I just didn't complete this form yet. So I can set this to complete. And now if I go back, I should be able to create a new one. And there we go. Oh, oops. Interesting. May have found a little bug there. Oh no, I think it's supposed to, it's pulling in the job details from previous so that you don't have to re-enter those, but you can edit them if you need to or remove it if that's no longer their job. So that's great. And I'm gonna stop sharing and give that back to Miranda. All right. Queries are used to track outstanding tasks and actions. Next slide, please, Miranda. Queries are accessed by clicking on the queries in the white top-level persistent navigation menu. There are two queries related to employment data forms. The in-progress query will return results for forms which have been created but have not yet been completed. The currently working no work support query will return results for persons who have an employment status of part-time or full-time on their person record, or the answer to is the individual employed on their active comprehensive assessment was yes, and the person does not have an active prior authorization for work supports. In this example, I have run the currently working no work support query, which returned 64 results. Query results can also be exported for further analysis if needed. Next slide, please, Miranda. So we've reached the conclusion of the slides. If you have any questions, please feel free to type those into the Q&A. While you're doing that, I'll give you a little bit of information on what the next steps are. So we definitely want you to be able to get into the system and familiarize yourself before we go live. So this week on Friday, we will be trying to get sent out everybody's access to our sandbox training environment. So we'll be sending individual emails, and that will have a link to that sandbox training environment, the login credentials that you should use to log in, and a person record that's assigned especially for you. And so you'll want to make sure a couple of things: that you don't reset the password if you forget it, because the password is going to be shared, and that your login may have more access than your actual production access, because we want you to be able to navigate the system and not be held up by something that another user role would have had to do in order for you to continue on in a workflow. So just beware that your training environment may have more access than your production account will have. But your person record is yours, and you can do whatever you'd like with that person record. You can add forms, you can add and edit stuff in the person record, you can use the queries, reports, just click around and try to familiarize with yourself with the system as much as possible. In the meantime, while you're waiting for those to be sent out on Friday, you can definitely go to our website at maine.gov/dhhs/EIS/evergreen, and you can rewatch the informational webinar series that we held back in October and November. There's some really great information on the person record, reportable events, progress notes, and our person-centered plan to prior authorization for those of you that are interested in those topics. You can also watch the micro-learning videos if you haven't already, or rewatch them if you did get a chance to watch them before this training. And we will also be posting recorded training sessions. So we did provide this training as well as 5 other training sessions on different topics last week, and we'll be getting those posted out. That last week's recordings posted out there hopefully in the next day or so. And also you can check out our frequently asked questions. There are a ton of frequently asked questions already out on the website. We will also be updating that with the questions that came in from our trainings last week. Also, what you can be working on is if your role does allow you to enter reportable events and or progress notes, you can definitely be making sure that you're getting those entered and completed prior to the 5 p.m. on Friday, January 12th, 2024. So progress notes and reportable events will migrate into Evergreen in the closed status. So if you've entered a progress note and you still wanted to make edits to it, it will not be editable when it migrates into Evergreen. So we want to make sure that you get all of your edits done by 5 p.m. on January 12th. If you have a new progress note and you're not going to be able to complete it, we would suggest that you hold that until the 16th and enter it directly into Evergreen so that you don't have to re-enter it. Reportable events as well, we're encouraging people to get reportable events completed, not in an in-progress state. Worst case scenario, if something is in progress and you were unable to complete it, it will migrate in. You will be able to see it. It just won't be editable and you'll have to re-enter it so that you can finish it. Other forms like person-centered plans, developmental disabilities, intake and eligibility forms, etc., those will migrate in their in-progress status. So there's no need to worry about getting all those types of forms completed. It's just progress notes and reportable events that we do need to make sure are tied up. So making sure that you get that stuff done. If you are a user that does person-centered plans, then you'll also want to make sure that you follow the instructions in the September email about setting your person-centered plan correctly so that it will migrate successfully. That communication has also been posted on our website if you didn't get it by email. You can also register for the Q&A sessions that will be held the week of January 8th. There are 2 different Q&A sessions. These will be offered by our vendor, FEI Systems, and they're truly just an hour-long session for people to come and ask questions after you've had a chance to get into the training environment and navigate around and listen to all of your technical trainings. This is a place where you can come and ask your questions. And then finally, you can email any questions that you have to evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov. So at any time, please feel free to email those questions. And I will go to the Q&A. It does look like we have a couple of questions in the Q&A. And if you have any others, please feel free to add them to that Q&A right now. Christina asks, if a client has a waiver employment support provider, does the case manager still complete these reports? Or do the employment support providers complete the employment reports? I believe, Christina, that the employment support provider should be filling out the reports if these data forms, if they have one. Siri asks, are we still collecting data for 4th quarter, October to December? Great question. I will follow up with our employment team on that. I'm not sure. The system won't trigger your notification for January because it will have been after January 1st. But and since it will be January 16th, technically they should have been completed by the 15th, but there's nothing that would prevent us from doing that. So I certainly will get an answer to that question and we'll post that on our frequently asked questions. Heidi asks, what happens when you have a client that changes jobs during the quarter? Do you have to complete multiple employment forms or is it tracked in one form? Great question, Heidi. Both jobs will be tracked in the same form. So you'll create the form. It will be one form for the quarter. And when you get to the job details section, you'll use that little green button. You'll add the first job details, save that, and then you can use the button again to add a second job. So as many jobs as the person holds can be added under the job details section by using that multi-add list. It looks like we also got some, at least one question in the chat. Is this the quarterly employment data form that needs to be an end date. If this is the quarterly employment data form, there needs to be an end date. Oh, okay. So this was just letting me know that if it's the quarterly employment data form, there does need to be an end date. It's my understanding that if the person is currently employed, you do not need to put the end date because the system knows that this is the quarterly report for whichever quarter your start date is. But I'll certainly follow up to make sure that that's the case. Michelle is asking whether you'll receive a certificate of participation at the end of this training. No, unfortunately, Michelle, I do not believe that these training sessions qualify, so you won't get certificates for the training time for these sessions. And I think that's it. Oh, Stacy asks, I see you didn't have an end date on the, oh, sorry, same question here. Yeah, I'll confirm that, Stacy, on the end date. It was my understanding that if the person is still employed, then you need only put the start date. However, we'll get clarification around that and make sure that we post that for all of you. And I don't see any other questions. We do still have plenty of time here. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to type them into the Q&A now. But again, if you think of any questions after the fact, you can certainly go back and send an email to our evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov email. And Miranda was also nice enough to post the links to our project page, the training page on our project website. So there are several other technical training sessions that are going to be occurring this week, next week, and the first couple of weeks of January. So please take a look at all the training registration links that are out on our training page and sign up for any that are relevant to your role. And also we will be posting all of the recordings from all of the trainings. So if there's any that you want to listen to as playback, you're certainly welcome to do that as well. And it looks like I did get one more question from Colette. Is the start date for the quarter or when the person started his or her job? Yeah, it's my understanding that the start date was for the job, but again, I'll get some clarity around that. I thought that the date range was to indicate when the person started their job, and that's why you don't need the end date on that. But I'll definitely get some clarification and make sure that we tell you guys for sure. And it looks like that's everything. So I definitely want to be respectful of everyone's time today. I want to thank you for joining me at 8 a.m. on a Monday. It was really nice being able to provide this training for you and certainly looking forward to working with you in Evergreen. Everybody have a great week.
Thank you. I'll be ending the webinar. Have a great day.
Thanks, Miranda.